All right, we're going to do a little new segment here. And this is one that it just had to happen because and I love this. Every time you send out the tweet for mailbag questions, Joe, or on the Apple reviews or in the YouTube comments, I would say like 30% of the questions are pitching lab related, honestly, at this point, and for good reason. The pitching lab has become this grand mystery at this point that I'm almost like going to be outside the gates, like screaming to let me in. I just got to see what's happening in here at this point. But besides that, Tales from the Pitching Lab, I think is going to be a reoccurring segment on the Mets pod quite often because there's just a new guy every week, Joe, that we're like, what's going on here? And this isn't a new guy because the Mets pod was irrationally excited about the addition of Griffin Canning when it happened, Joe. Yeah, I know, like you really talked me into this one. Like the third day he was under contract here, and I'm like, all right, Griffin Canning, sixth man. Like I feel pretty good about this. 21 innings pitched. He's got a 3.43 ERA. He's 2-1. And what are the actual adjustments though, Joe? It's not like he's just going out there and doing the same thing that he got battered around when he was with the Angels. But if Griffin Canning pitches to a sub-4 ERA this year, Joe, that's a Stearns masterclass that I think is somehow more impressive than Severino and Manaea last year.
If Griffin Canning can post a sub-4 ERA, no matter who the Mets sign to be starting pitchers, we just have to automatically accept it's going to work out. That's just the way I think we have to look at this thing. But if you look back to last year, one thing about Griffin Canning, he was, despite throwing 170 something innings, he was working through a back injury. So I think that did play a role. And if you look at his 2023 numbers, I think his ERA was like 4.2. So he was around a league average pitcher the year before. So I think Canning, what I've noticed over this stretch so far, his slider usage is something the Mets have really emphasized. Last year, he threw the slider about 24% of the time. This year, it's his most used pitch at 37% of the time. What you want to do nowadays in like modern pitching sounds like rocket science, right? Throw your not good pitches less and throw your better pitches more. And across the board, though, what I will say about Canning, the two primary pitches are the slider and the four-seam fastball. The Mets, I'm sure, have worked a little bit on the shape of it to adjust just like a little couple things there. But we're talking about from a run value, which is on Baseball Savant, they assign a run value 0 being, like a net average, and then there's positive and negative. In 2024, Griffin Canning's four-seam fastball was a negative 12 run value, which was simply just one of the worst four-seam fastballs in the sport. So far this year, +3. His slider this year is 0, so it's basically an average pitch as far as run value goes. Last year, -6. So those are
it's crazy.
It's just been a stark change in two pitches. He's getting a little healthier than he was last year. Griffin Canning is a guy when we were getting ready to do our season preview. And I think you set the over under on starts at him at, what was it, like 17 or 18?
Yeah.
I was I'm slamming the over. Griffin Canning might be the most reliable guy for innings in this Mets rotation. And, I'm not saying he's going to pitch to that 3.4 ERA that he has so far this year for the entirety of the season. But look, this is a staff, obviously David Stearns at the top of the food chain there, but Jeremy Hefner's such a great pitching coach. And then the development staff down in Port St. Lucie, when these guys get to spring training, they get to go into the lab and work on things. Griffin Canning is just another example of why the Mets are becoming one of the preeminent organizations when it comes to pitching development.
It feels like the Mets, besides getting guys that have physical ability to have better results than what they've had in the past, which is how you pay below value compared to the results you're going to get, right? It's really the Moneyball philosophy down to its core in certain ways. Is that also you need guys to just lean into this. And athletes, man, when you get to the top of the mountain, Major League Baseball, like you are in a percentile that is so rare, no matter whatever you do in the major leagues, that understandably not all athletes are receptive when for 15 plus years they've been doing something a certain way, and then they're told, how about this? So having these guys like clearly Canning who are receptive to change in hopes of achieving their best. It's trust, right? And I think
Yes.
it's not something that you should be guaranteed. But what the Mets did, and Severino, credit to him and thank you to him. He had a lot of quotes after last year that pumped up the Mets organization, from the health, sports science, all kinds of their staffs that they have on hand, that they proved something, that what the Mets have invested in. Now you saw it with Severino and Manaea last year, where somebody like Griffin Canning came to the Mets on a 1-year, $4.25 million deal with an open mind, and look at the results right now.